Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, watching stars blur past the main window. This was it, humanity's first real journey beyond their solar system. The new quantum jump drive hummed quietly beneath her feet, a miracle of human engineering that had taken 50 years to build. "Jump coordinates locked in, Captain," said Lieutenant Park from the navigation station. His young face showed excitement mixed with nervous energy. This was his first space mission, and Sarah could see his hands shaking slightly as he worked. "Very good, Park. Remember, this is just a test run. We jump out, take some readings, and jump back home. Nothing fancy." Sarah tried to keep her voice calm, but inside, she felt the same excitement as her crew. Humans were finally joining the stars. The quantum drive had been designed based on energy signatures they had detected from space. For decades, human scientists had picked up strange readings that suggested other intelligent life was out there, traveling between stars. They had worked backwards from those signals to build their own version of faster-than-light travel. "Drive ready for activation, Captain," called Chief Engineer Rodriguez from his station. The stocky man had grease stains on his uniform and a confident smile. He had personally built half the systems on this ship with his own hands. "All stations report ready," Sarah announced. "Beginning jump sequence in 10 seconds. She counted down silently, watching her crew work. Navigation Officer Park double-checked his calculations. Communications Officer Williams monitored for any incoming signals. Science Officer Dr. Patel prepared her instruments to record everything about their first jump. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, execute." Rodriguez hit the activation button. The quantum drive roared to life, sending vibrations through the ship. Outside the windows, stars began to stretch and twist as space folded around them. Then something went very wrong. Warning lights flashed red across every console. The ship lurched violently to one side, throwing crew members against their stations. Sarah grabbed her chair as the deck tilted at a crazy angle. "What's happening?" she shouted over the noise of alarms. "Navigation error!" Park yelled back, his face pale. "The coordinates were wrong. We're not going where we planned." "Can you stop the jump?" "Too late. We're already in the quantum tunnel." The ship spun wildly as it raced through folded space. Through the windows, Sarah could see impossible colors and shapes that hurt to look at. The quantum tunnel was supposed to be smooth and controlled. This felt like falling down a mountain. "Brace for emergency exit," Rodriguez called out. "I'm shutting down the drive." The world exploded into light and sound. When Sarah's vision cleared, she found herself looking at something that definitely should not have been there. Ships. Thousands of them. Alien ships in perfect formations, stretched out as far as she could see. They were beautiful. Sleek silver vessels with flowing lines and glowing energy fields. Some were massive, the size of cities. Others were small and graceful like dancers. And the UES Prometheus was flying straight toward them at incredible speed. "Oh no," Sarah whispered. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures," Dr. Patel called out, her voice high with panic. "These ships are incredibly advanced. And there's something else. A planet dead ahead." Sarah looked forward and saw it. A blue-green world that sparkled like a jewel, covered in impossible structures that reached up into space. Floating cities drifted in the atmosphere. Huge towers stretched from the surface all the way to orbit. Everything glowed with soft, beautiful light, and they were heading straight for the middle of it all. "Full reverse," Sarah ordered. "No good," Rodriguez shouted. "The drive is overheated. We can't change course." The alien ships began to move, trying to get out of their way. But the UES Prometheus was moving too fast and spinning too wildly. Sarah watched in horror as their ship smashed through the perfect alien formations like a rock thrown through a glass window. The first alien ship they hit was a delicate crystal structure that shattered into a million sparkling pieces. The second was a flowing energy being that scattered like water. More and more beautiful vessels tried to dodge, but the human ship was completely out of control. There's something directly ahead, William screamed. It's huge! Sarah looked and felt her heart stop. Rising from the planet's surface was a column of pure white light, reaching up into space. It was perfectly straight and impossibly tall, covered in symbols that glowed and shifted. Even from a distance, she could tell it was ancient and sacred. Their ship was going to hit it. All hands, brace for impact. Sarah grabbed the intercom. This is going to be rough. The UES Prometheus struck the column of light with a sound like thunder. The white pillar cracked and began to fall apart. Pieces of glowing stone scattered in all directions. The ship bounced off, spun 3 times, and crashed into what looked like a parade ground covered in colorful alien creatures. The impact threw Sarah forward against her console. Her head hit the metal surface and everything went dark for a moment. When she came to, the ship was still and quiet except for the hiss of escaping air and the crackle of damaged electronics. Damage report, she said weakly, touching her forehead and finding blood. Main drive is dead, Rodriguez called out, his voice shaken. Life support is working, but half our systems are offline. The hull is cracked in 17 places. Are we safe to go outside? Dr. Patel checked her instruments. The atmosphere is breathable for humans. Gravity is a little heavy but manageable. Sarah stood up carefully and looked out the windows. What she saw made her want to hide under her chair. Thousands of alien beings surrounded their crashed ship. They came in every shape and size she could imagine. Some walked on 2 legs like humans. Others floated in the air or moved on dozens of tiny legs. A few looked like living trees or clouds of colored gas. All of them were staring at the UES Prometheus, and all of them looked very, very angry. The beautiful white column they had destroyed was now a pile of rubble. Scattered around it were the remains of what had clearly been some kind of ceremony. Colorful banners lay torn and dirty. Strange musical instruments were broken and scattered. Alien dignitaries in fancy clothes stood covered in dust, their expressions showing shock and outrage. "Captain," William said in a small voice, "I think we just crashed a very important party." Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Humanity's first contact with alien civilization, and they had managed to destroy what was obviously a sacred monument and ruin what looked like the biggest celebration in galactic history. "All right, people," she said, opening her eyes and straightening her uniform. "We're going out there. We're going to apologize, explain what happened, and hope they don't vaporize us on the spot." "What if they don't speak our language?" Park asked. "Then we point at the wreckage, point at ourselves, and look very, very sorry." Sarah walked to the airlock, her crew following behind her. Through the small window, she could see more aliens gathering every second. Some carried what were definitely weapons. Others held strange devices that glowed and hummed. She opened the airlock door and stepped out to meet the galaxy. Sarah stepped onto alien soil for the first time in human history. The ground beneath her feet felt strange. It was soft and seemed to glow with its own light. The air smelled like flowers and electricity. Around her, thousands of alien beings watched in complete silence. The closest aliens looked somewhat like humans, but taller and thinner, with pale blue skin and large silver eyes. They wore flowing robes covered in symbols that moved and changed color. Behind them stood creatures that looked like walking trees, their bark-like skin rustling as they moved. Further back, Sarah could see beings that floated in the air like jellyfish, and others that looked like living crystals. "Hello?" Sarah said, raising her hands to show she was not armed. "We are sorry. This was an accident." The blue-skinned aliens looked at each other and began speaking in musical voices that sounded like wind chimes. Other species joined in with clicks, whistles, and sounds Sarah had never heard before. The noise grew louder and more urgent. Rodriguez stepped up beside Sarah, carrying a small device. "Captain, I brought the Universal Translator prototype. Maybe it can help." The translator was something human scientists had built based on mathematical concepts they thought would be common to all intelligent species. Rodriguez switched it on, and a small blue light began blinking. "Testing, testing," Sarah said into the device. It made several beeping sounds, then began speaking in the musical language of the blue aliens. The effect was immediate. Every alien, in sight, turned to stare directly at Sarah. Their expressions changed from confusion to shock to what looked like pure rage. "That worked well," Rodriguez muttered. One of the blue aliens, clearly a leader based on the elaborate crown floating above his head, stepped forward. He was very tall, maybe 8 feet, and his silver eyes seemed to glow with inner fire. When he spoke, his voice was like a beautiful song, but Sarah could tell he was not happy. The translator crackled and then spoke in English. "Barbarian scum! Your crude insults about the sacred bloodline of Emperor Vexthor the Magnificent will not be tolerated. You dare to call his noble ancestors smelly space worms and his royal person a ridiculous hat-wearing fool?" Sarah's eyes went wide. "What? No. I said we were sorry. I never said anything about space worms." She spoke into the translator again, trying to explain. The blue alien's expression grew even angrier as he listened. "Now you claim the Emperor's mother was a toothless fish beast, and his palace is fit only for garbage-eating insects. Your insults grow worse with every word." "The translator is broken," Dr. Patel whispered urgently. "It's translating everything wrong." Rodriguez was already opening the device with his tools. "I can see the problem. Some of the circuits got damaged in the crash. Give me a minute." But they did not have a minute. More aliens were arriving, including several that looked like professional soldiers. They carried weapons that hummed with energy and wore armor that seemed to be made of living metal. The alien leader raised his hand and pointed at the humans. When he spoke, his voice carried clearly across the gathering crowd, without the need for translation. Sarah did not understand the words, but the tone was unmistakable. He was giving orders. "Captain," Park said nervously, "I think he just told them to arrest us." The soldier aliens began moving forward. Sarah held up her hands again. "Wait, please, let us explain." Behind her, Rodriguez was working frantically on the translator. Sparks flew from the small device as he rewired its circuits. "Almost got it, Captain. Just need to reroute the linguistic matrix through the backup processors." One of the soldiers, a creature that looked like an armored bear with 6 arms, reached towards Sarah. At that moment, Rodriguez shouted in triumph, "Got it! Try now, Captain!" Sarah spoke into the repaired translator. "We are peaceful explorers from the planet Earth. We crashed here by accident. We mean no harm." The device translated her words, and this time the alien reactions were different. Instead of anger, they looked confused and surprised. The tall leader tilted his head and spoke. The translator said, "You claim to be peaceful after this unprovoked attack on our most sacred ceremony?" "It was not an attack," Sarah insisted. "Our navigation system failed. We did not know where we were going. You destroyed the Pillar of Unity during the centennial coronation. Do you expect us to believe this was accidental?" Sarah looked back at the pile of glowing rubble that had once been a beautiful column. "The centennial coronation? What is that?" Dr. Patel stepped forward with her scanner. "Captain, I'm reading massive ceremonial significance from all these structures. This was definitely some kind of major religious or political event." The alien leader's eyes grew even wider. "You do not know what the centennial coronation is? What species are you? From what world do you come?" "We are humans from Earth. We have never traveled beyond our solar system before today." A murmur ran through the crowd of aliens. Many of them began speaking to each other in excited voices. "Impossible," the leader said. "All spacefaring species are known to the Galactic Throne. If you truly come from beyond our borders, then you are either liars or—" He paused, thinking. "Or you have achieved faster-than-light travel independently." Rodriguez could not help himself. Yes, we built our own quantum jump drive. Took us 50 years, but we did it. The aliens erupted in conversation. Some looked amazed, others frightened, and a few seemed impressed. The leader held up his hand for silence. I am High Coordinator Zephron of the Galactic Court. If what you say is true, then this is a matter for the highest authorities. But first, you must answer for the destruction you have caused. Sarah looked around at the mess their ship had made. Broken decorations lay everywhere. Alien dignitaries were still brushing dust off their clothes. The remains of the Pillar of Unity looked like a monument to human clumsiness. We will pay for all damages, she said. We will help repair anything that can be fixed. Rodriguez stepped forward eagerly. Absolutely. I've got tools and plenty of experience fixing things. He walked over to a piece of the broken pillar and pulled out his toolkit. The aliens watched in fascination as he examined the glowing stone. This is interesting, Rodriguez muttered. Some kind of crystalline energy matrix. The structure is damaged but not completely broken. If I can realign the quantum resonance and maybe add some stabilizing supports. He pulled out a roll of silver tape and began wrapping it around the broken stone. Then he took out a hammer and gave the piece a firm tap. The stone immediately began glowing brighter and lifted slightly off the ground. The aliens gasped. Several of them fell to their knees. What did he do? Zephran demanded. Rodriguez grinned. Fixed it. Well, mostly. It'll need more work, but the basic energy flow is restored. Zephran stared at the floating stone, then at Rodriguez, then at the roll of tape. You repaired a Unity pillar fragment with primitive adhesive material and kinetic force? Duct tape and percussive maintenance, Rodriguez said proudly. Solves most problems. The High Coordinator looked like his entire understanding of the universe had just been turned upside down. He spoke rapidly to several other aliens who responded with equally excited voices. Finally, Zephran turned back to the humans. This situation is far beyond my authority to handle. You will be taken to Axiom Prime for judgment before the Galactic High Court. Is that bad? Park whispered. Dr. Patel checked her scanner. I'm reading massive energy signatures from that direction. Whatever Axiom Prime is, it's very important. Zephron continued speaking. You will be charged with destruction of sacred property, disruption of a holy ceremony, and... He paused, looking at Rodriguez, who was now examining another piece of broken pillar. And unauthorized repair of Unity artifacts using unknown techniques. Is that last one a crime? Sarah asked. We are not sure. It has never happened before. Large transport ships began landing around them. These were clearly official. Vessels, sleek, powerful, and decorated with the same symbols Sarah had seen on the broken pillar. Load your vessel onto the cargo transport, Zephron ordered. You will need it as evidence. As aliens began working to lift the damaged UES Prometheus, Sarah gathered her crew around her. Well, people, it looks like we're going to see more of the galaxy than we planned. Williams looked worried. What do you think they'll do to us? Sarah watched Rodriguez enthusiastically explaining his repair techniques to a group of fascinated alien engineers. I honestly have no idea, but I have a feeling this is going to be interesting. The journey to Axiom Prime took 3 days. Sarah and her crew were kept comfortable aboard a massive alien transport ship, but they were definitely prisoners. Their guards were polite but firm, and the doors to their quarters would not open, without permission. During the trip, Sarah learned more about what they had stumbled into. The Centennial Coronation was the most important ceremony in galactic civilization. It happened only once every 100 years, when the Emperor received tribute and renewed his pledge to protect the galaxy. Representatives from 1,000 worlds had traveled for months to attend, and the Pillar of Unity they had destroyed was over 10,000 years old, built when the first galactic empire was founded. It was considered the most sacred monument in known space. So basically, Rodriguez said during their second day of travel, we crashed the Super Bowl, the Pope's birthday party, and the signing of the Constitution all at the same time. That's one way to put it, Sarah replied grimly. Dr. Patel had spent most of the journey studying the aliens and their technology. The fascinating thing is how diverse they all are, she reported. I've identified at least 60 different species just on this ship. Yet they all seem to work together perfectly. Their guard, a floating jellyfish-like creature named Wolfin, overheard her comment. The Galactic Federation has been at peace for over 3,000 years, it said in a voice like singing crystals. War and conflict are things of the past. How did you manage that? Sarah asked. Order, structure. Everyone knows their place and follows the rules. Chaos brings only suffering. Sarah thought about that as she watched alien crew members working on the ship. Everything they did was precise and efficient. Every movement had a purpose. There was no wasted energy, no confusion, no mistakes. It was impressive, but it also seemed somehow cold. On the third day, they arrived at Axiom Prime. Sarah had thought the Coronation World was beautiful, but Axiom Prime took her breath away. The entire planet looked like a work of art. Perfect cities covered every continent, connected by flowing rivers of light. Massive structures reached into space, their surfaces covered in gardens that bloomed with impossible colors. The capital of galactic civilization, Wolfen explained proudly. Home to the Emperor and the High Court, the most advanced world in the galaxy. Their ship docked at a spaceport that was larger than most Earth cities. As they were escorted off the transport, Sarah saw thousands of different alien species going about their business. Everyone moved with the same calm efficiency she had noticed on the ship. The High Court building was a crystal palace that seemed to float in the air above the city. Inside, the ceilings were so high they disappeared into soft clouds. The walls showed moving pictures of alien worlds and star systems. Sarah and her crew were led into a waiting room where they met their lawyer. "Greetings," said a creature that looked like a giant praying mantis with 8 arms. "I am Klokatar, licensed defender of the accused. I will represent you in the proceedings." "Thank you," Sarah said, shaking one of his many hands. "What exactly are we being charged with?" Kolkatar consulted a glowing tablet. "Cosmic disrespect in the first degree, aggravated desecration of sacred geometry, and violation of ceremonial space. The penalties range from 100 years in prison to being launched into a black hole." Park made a choking sound. "Black hole? Only for the most serious offenses," Kolkatar assured him. "However, I must warn you that the prosecution has added additional charges based on their investigation of your species." "What kind of additional charges?" Sarah asked. "Planetary destruction, species genocide, and pattern of destructive behavior. They claim your entire species is a threat to galactic peace." Dr. Patel frowned. "How could they possibly know about our history? They sent probe ships to your home system. The evidence they gathered is concerning." Selktar activated his tablet and showed them images from Earth. Sarah saw pictures of wars, pollution, extinct animals, and the growing field of space junk in Earth's orbit. They argue that any species capable of destroying their own planets, environment, and driving other species to extinction cannot be trusted with galactic citizenship. Rodriguez looked angry. "That's not fair. We're getting better. We've started cleaning up the oceans and protecting endangered species." The prosecution's argument is that you are too dangerous to be allowed into galactic civilization. They want you permanently quarantined to your home system. Sarah felt a cold weight in her stomach. Humanity's dream of joining the stars was slipping away before it had even really begun. "When does the trial start?" she asked. "In 1 hour. I should warn you that this trial is being broadcast across the galaxy. Billions of beings will be watching." The courtroom was enormous. The judge's bench looked like a small mountain, and the witness stand was surrounded by floating platforms where different alien species could observe in their preferred environments. Sarah had never felt so small. The judge was an ancient creature that looked like a living tree covered in stars. Its voice echoed through the chamber like distant thunder. The case of the Galactic Federation versus the species called humans will now begin. Prosecutor Veilak, present your opening statement. The prosecutor was a tall, elegant being with skin like polished metal and eyes that glowed like suns. When it spoke, its voice was smooth and confident. Honored court, we face an unprecedented threat to galactic peace. These creatures call themselves humans, and they come from a world of violence and destruction. Their own planet bears the scars of their savage nature. Images of Earth's problems filled the air above the courtroom. Wars, pollution, melting ice caps, piles of garbage. They have driven countless species on their world to extinction through carelessness and greed. They poison their own air and water. They wage war against their own kind for resources and territory. And now they have somehow achieved space travel and invaded our sacred ceremonial space. More images appeared, showing the destruction at the coronation ceremony. The evidence shows that this was no accident, but a deliberate act of aggression. Who else but a violent species would approach our most holy ceremony at such dangerous speed? Who else would destroy our most sacred monument without a moment's hesitation? Sarah wanted to stand up and argue, but Kulkatar held her back with one of his arms. The prosecution will prove that humans are fundamentally incompatible with galactic civilization. They are chaos incarnate, a threat to the peace we have maintained for 3 millennia. For the safety of all civilized beings, they must be contained. The prosecutor sat down to murmurs of agreement from the alien observers. Kulkatar stood up, his 8 arms moving gracefully as he spoke. Honored court, my clients do not deny that they caused destruction at the coronation ceremony, but this was truly an accident, caused by a malfunction in their experimental faster-than-light drive. He activated his own display, showing technical diagrams of the quantum jump drive. Humans achieved faster-than-light travel independently, with no contact with galactic civilization. This is an extraordinary accomplishment that has only been achieved by 6 species in galactic history. Such innovation should be celebrated, not punished. As for their planet's environmental problems, these are the growing pains of a young species learning to manage advanced technology. Many current Federation members went through similar periods in their development. Sarah noticed that several alien observers were nodding thoughtfully. Furthermore, when humans realized they had caused damage, their first instinct was to apologize and offer to help repair what they had broken. This shows a moral character worthy of galactic citizenship. Kulkatar gestured toward Rodriguez. Indeed, Chief Engineer Rodriguez successfully repaired a Unity pillar fragment using innovative techniques that our own engineers are still studying. The judge's star-covered branches rustled as it spoke. The court will now hear testimony from witnesses. The prosecution may call its first witness. What followed was 3 hours of testimony from aliens who had been at the coronation ceremony. They described the beauty of the celebration, the ancient traditions being honored, and the shock of having it all destroyed by a spinning human spacecraft. Sarah felt worse and worse as each witness spoke. She could see the pain in their faces, as they described seeing their most sacred monument reduced to rubble. When it was time for the defense, Kulkatar called Rodriguez to the witness stand. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, please explain to the court how you were able to repair the Unity pillar fragment. Rodriguez looked nervous but determined. Well, I examined the crystal matrix and realized the quantum resonance was just slightly out of alignment. So I used some duct tape to stabilize the structure and gave it a calibrated percussive adjustment. A calibrated percussive adjustment? I hit it with a hammer, but very carefully. A ripple of surprise went through the courtroom. And this technique of yours, where did you learn it? Trial and error, mostly. When you're an engineer, you learn that sometimes the simplest solutions work best. The prosecutor objected. This primitive approach to advanced technology only proves how dangerous humans are. But the judge seemed intrigued. Chief Engineer, are you saying that your species regularly solves complex problems through improvisation? Well, yes, Your Honor. When something breaks, you figure out how to fix. Sarah could not sleep. She lay on the soft alien bed in her assigned quarters, staring at the ceiling and thinking about everything that had gone wrong. Through the window, she could see the lights of Axiom Prime stretching to the horizon, beautiful and perfect and utterly foreign. Her crew was taking the situation differently. Rodriguez was in the common area, sketching improvements to alien technology he had observed. Dr. Patel was writing detailed notes about every species she had encountered. Park was practicing alien languages with their guard, Wolfin. Williams was composing what she called humanity's first interstellar message home, in case they never made it back to Earth. At dawn, Kalkatar arrived to escort them to the courthouse for the verdict. How do you think it went? Sarah asked as they walked through corridors filled with floating art and singing crystals. Difficult to say, Kalkatar replied, his 8 arms moving in what Sarah had learned was the alien equivalent of a shrug. The prosecutor made strong points about your species' destructive history. But your testimony was effective, and Chief, Engineer Rodriguez's demonstration impressed many observers. What demonstration? You have not heard? Last night, the court's main computer system experienced a critical failure. The backup environmental controls for the capital city stopped working. 3 billion beings were at risk. Sarah felt her heart sink. Please tell me we're not being blamed for that, too. On the contrary, Chief Engineer Rodriguez solved the problem. They entered a waiting room where Rodriguez was surrounded by excited alien technicians. He looked up as Sarah approached. Captain, you missed all the fun. Their computer system crashed harder than our ship did. I heard you fixed it? Rodriguez grinned. Wasn't too difficult once I figured out what was wrong. Their system is incredibly advanced, but it's also incredibly complicated. They haven't updated the core programming in 3,000 years because they're afraid of breaking something. One of the alien technicians, a creature that looked like a walking flower, spoke up. The human identified a cascade failure in the primary processing matrix that our best experts could not locate. His solution was elegant and efficient. What did you do exactly? Sarah asked. Well, first I traced the error through about 6 levels of backup systems. Then I found where the original problem started, a tiny bit of corrupted code that had been copying itself for centuries. So I isolated it, deleted it, and rerouted the system functions through a cleaner pathway. That sounds very technical. Rodriguez laughed. Actually, it was just like cleaning dust out of a computer and turning it off and on again. The hard part was convincing them to let me try. Kalkatar looked thoughtful. This may work in your favor at trial. The court has direct evidence of human problem-solving abilities. They were escorted to the courtroom, which was even more crowded than before. News of the computer repair had spread, and many more alien species had come to observe the proceedings. The star-covered judge called the court to order with a voice like distant thunder. Before we announce the verdict, the court wishes to examine the computer repair performed by Chief Engineer Rodriguez. Large holographic displays showed the damaged computer code and Rodriguez's solution. Sarah did not understand most of it, but she could see the alien observers becoming more and more excited as the presentation continued. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, the judge said, please explain your diagnostic process. Rodriguez stood up nervously. Well, Your Honor, I started by asking what the computer was supposed to do. Then I looked at what it was actually doing. The difference between those two things told me where the problem was. And your repair technique? I removed the parts that were broken and made sure the remaining parts could talk to each other properly. It's like, if you have a clogged pipe, you find the clog, clear it out, and make sure water can flow again. The prosecutor stood up. Your Honor, this primitive approach to advanced technology only proves how dangerous humans are. They tinker with systems they do not understand, but the judge held up a branch for silence. The court has reviewed the repair in detail. The solution is not primitive. It is elegant. Furthermore, it solved a problem that had stumped our finest technicians for 3 days. The judge turned to address the full court. This incident has revealed something troubling about our civilization. We have become so focused on maintaining our advanced systems that we have forgotten how to truly understand them. We follow procedures and protocols, but we have lost the ability to think creatively when those procedures fail. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the courtroom. For 3,000 years, we have enjoyed peace and stability, but perhaps that stability has come at a cost. We have become rigid, predictable. When faced with an unexpected problem, we were helpless. The judge's star-covered branches rustled as it continued. The humans, despite their apparent primitive nature, solved our crisis through adaptive thinking and innovative problem-solving. This suggests that what we perceive as their weakness may actually be a strength. Sarah felt a flutter of hope. Furthermore, the judge continued, the court has received reports from the investigation of the humans' home system. While their planet does show signs of environmental damage and conflict, it also shows something else. Recovery. New images appeared above the courtroom, showing forests being replanted, clean energy installations, and wildlife preservation efforts. Human civilization is actively working to repair the damage they have caused. They have learned from their mistakes and are changing their behavior. This demonstrates the same adaptive capability we observed in Chief Engineer Rodriguez's repair work. The prosecutor looked increasingly uncomfortable. The court also notes that humans achieved faster-than-light travel independently, using principles our own scientists are still studying. They accomplished in 50 years what took most species centuries to develop. This innovation is remarkable. The judge paused, and the courtroom fell completely silent. However, the charges against the humans are serious. They did destroy the Pillar of Unity and disrupt the centennial coronation. Justice demands consequences for these actions. Sarah's heart sank again. But the court must also consider the broader implications of this case. Are we to punish innovation because it sometimes leads to accidents? Are we to reject new ideas because they disrupt our carefully ordered systems? The judge's voice grew stronger. The court finds that the humans acted without malicious intent. Their actions were the result of inexperience, not aggression. The damage they caused was accidental. Relief flooded through Sarah. However, there is another matter to consider. During the recess, an emergency arose that threatened the lives of 3 billion citizens of Axiom Prime. Our own systems failed, and our own experts could not solve the crisis. The judge turned to look directly at Rodriguez. A human engineer, using techniques unknown to our civilization, solved the problem in 4 hours. He asked for no payment, no recognition, no reward. He simply saw a problem and fixed it. The entire courtroom was now focused on the judge's words. This court has realized something important. Our civilization has achieved great things, but we have lost something essential, the ability to adapt and innovate when faced with the unexpected. We have become so perfect that we have forgotten how to handle imperfection. The judge stood, its massive form towering over the courtroom. Therefore, this court makes an unprecedented ruling. The humans are found guilty of the destruction charges, but the court sentences them to community service in the form of sharing their adaptive problem-solving techniques with Federation engineers. Sarah blinked in surprise. Community service? Furthermore, the judge continued, this court recommends that the Galactic Federation not only grant humans membership, but invite them to serve in a special capacity, as agents of necessary chaos. The courtroom erupted. Alien observers were standing, waving appendages, and making sounds of amazement, protest, and excitement. The judge called for order. For too long, we have valued stability over growth, procedure over innovation. The HFY humans have reminded us that sometimes progress requires a willingness to break things in order to build something better. Sarah could hardly believe what she was hearing. The humans will be granted full Federation membership, with the understanding that they will help us rediscover the innovative spirit we have lost. They will work with our engineers, our scientists, and our leaders to find new solutions to old problems. The prosecutor stood up, looking shocked. "Your Honor, this is highly irregular." "Yes," the judge replied, with what Sarah could swear was amusement. "It is irregular. It is unexpected. It is exactly what our civilization needs." The judge turned back to Sarah and her crew. "Captain Chen, do you accept these terms on behalf of humanity?" Sarah stood up, her mind reeling. They had come here expecting to be punished, possibly executed. Instead, they were being invited to help reshape galactic civilization. "We accept, Your Honor." "We're honored by your trust." "Excellent. There is one final matter to address." The judge gestured, and several court officials wheeled in a large device covered in a cloth. The original Pillar of Unity was indeed destroyed. However, Chief Engineer, Rodriguez's repair of the fragment has given us an idea. The cloth was removed, revealing a new pillar. It was clearly alien in. The ceremony was scheduled for the next morning in the Grand Assembly Hall, the largest gathering space on Axiom Prime. Sarah and her crew spent the evening trying to understand what was about to happen, but none of their alien friends would give them a straight answer. "It is a great honor," Wolfen assured them. "The Emperor has not personally welcomed a new species in over 400 years. "But why do you all look so uncomfortable when we ask about it?" Dr. Patel wondered. "The ceremony has been adapted to reflect the unique circumstances of your arrival," Kolkatar explained carefully. Rodriguez was still processing the fact that his repair techniques were being taught in engineering schools across the galaxy. "I can't believe they want to learn about percussive maintenance." Innovation often appears primitive to those who do not understand it, their alien engineering friend, the flower-like creature named Blostal, had told him. "Your techniques work because they are simple and direct. We have forgotten that the best solutions are often the most basic ones." The morning of the ceremony, Sarah and her crew were given special clothes to wear, flowing robes similar to those worn by other Federation members, but with small Earth flags and images of their crashed ship embroidered on them. Sarah was not sure if this was meant to be an honor or a reminder of their embarrassing arrival. The Grand Assembly Hall was enormous, with seating for representatives from every world in the Federation. As they were escorted to the front of the hall, Sarah could see thousands of different alien species watching them. Some she recognized from the trial, but most were completely new. "There must be 1,000,000 beings here," Park whispered. "This ceremony is being broadcast across the galaxy," Kluktar informed them. "An estimated 50 billion beings are watching." Sarah felt dizzy. 50 billion? Humans are the first species to achieve independent faster-than-light travel in over 800 years. Everyone is curious about you. At the front of the hall was a massive throne that seemed to be carved from a single giant crystal. It was empty, but Sarah could feel power radiating from it even from a distance. "Where is the Emperor?" she asked. "He will arrive shortly. First, there are some preparations to complete." Court officials were setting up what looked like a small stage next to the throne. Sarah noticed they kept glancing at her crew and whispering among themselves. "Captain Chen," one of the officials approached her. "The Emperor has requested that Chief Engineer Rodriguez bring his repair tools to the ceremony." Rodriguez patted the tool bag at his side. "They're right here. Why does he need them? You will understand soon enough." A deep, resonant sound filled the hall, like a bell the size of a mountain being rung. Every alien in the audience stood up and began making sounds that Sarah realized was some kind of galactic anthem. The music was beautiful, with harmonies. That seemed to come from creatures she could not even see. Then the Emperor arrived. Emperor Vex Thor the Magnificent was the most impressive being Sarah had ever seen. He was over 12 feet tall, with skin that shifted between different colors like an aurora. His eyes were like small stars, and when he moved, he seemed to float rather than walk. Power radiated from him in waves that made the air itself shimmer. He wore robes that seemed to be made of liquid light, and a crown that appeared to be a miniature galaxy spinning slowly above his head. Everything about him spoke of ancient wisdom and absolute authority. "Greetings, people of Earth," he said, and his voice filled the entire hall without any need for amplification. "I am Vexthor, guardian of the galaxy, keeper of the peace, defender of civilization." Sarah and her crew bowed, not sure what else to do. "Rise," the Emperor commanded. "Today, we welcome a new species into our Federation. But this is not a typical welcome ceremony." He gestured, and holographic images appeared above the hall, showing the destruction at the coronation ceremony. Normally, new members are welcomed after careful study and diplomatic contact. They arrive with dignity and ceremony, presenting gifts and demonstrating their worthiness to join our civilization. The images changed to show previous welcoming ceremonies, with aliens in elaborate costumes presenting beautiful artifacts to earlier emperors. The humans, however, arrived by crashing through our most sacred ceremony and destroying our most holy monument. Sarah wanted to disappear into the floor. Furthermore, the Emperor continued, "They have forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about our own civilization. They have shown us that our pursuit of perfection has made us brittle. Our fear of chaos has made us unable to adapt when adaptation is needed." The audience was completely silent, hanging on every word. Therefore, the traditional welcoming ceremony is insufficient. We require something new, something that acknowledges both the damage they have caused and the gifts they have brought. The Emperor stepped down from his throne and walked toward the small stage that had been prepared. The humans will be welcomed not just as new Federation members, but as agents of necessary chaos. But first, justice must be served for the destruction they caused. Sarah felt her heart sink. After everything, were they still going to be punished? The pillar of unity that was destroyed had stood for 10,000 years as a symbol of order and permanence. The humans destroyed it in minutes through carelessness and inexperience. The Emperor reached the stage and turned to face the audience. But they also repaired it using techniques we did not understand, creating something new from the wreckage. They took our symbol of rigid perfection and made it into a symbol of adaptive innovation. He gestured to Rodriguez. "Chief Engineer, Rodriguez, please approach." Rodriguez walked forward nervously, his tool bag clanking with every step. "The court has ruled that the humans must perform community service to make amends for their actions. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, your service begins now." The Imperial throne has been experiencing minor operational difficulties for the past 3 centuries. Our technicians have been unable to determine the cause. Please examine it and recommend repairs. Rodriguez's eyes went wide. "You want me to fix the Emperor's throne?" "Indeed." "Right here? In front of everyone?" "Yes." Rodriguez looked back at Sarah, who nodded encouragingly. He walked over to the massive crystal throne and began examining it with professional interest. He muttered, running his hands over the crystal surface. "I can feel a vibration that's not quite right. And there's a resonance issue in the upper harmonics." He pulled out a scanner from his tool bag and ran it over different parts of the throne. "Found it! There's a microfracture in the 3rd resonance chamber. It's been growing very slowly for centuries." "Can you repair it?" the Emperor asked. "Oh, sure. Easy fix." Rodriguez pulled out his roll of duct tape. "Just need to stabilize the fracture and realign the energy flow." A gasp went through the audience as Rodriguez began applying silver tape to the Emperor's throne. Then he pulled out his hammer. "Wait," Sarah called out. "Rodriguez, are you sure about this?" "Trust me, Captain. This is just like the pillar fragment, but bigger." He raised the hammer. One precise percussive adjustment should do it. He struck the throne with a clear, ringing sound. The entire throne began to glow more brightly. The vibration Rodriguez had detected stopped, and a pure, beautiful tone filled the hall. The Emperor smiled, the first time Sarah had seen any alien smile since they arrived. Excellent. The throne has not sounded this clear in centuries. He turned to address the audience. Behold, the humans have now repaired both our most sacred monument and our most important symbol of authority. They have proven their value to our civilization. The crowd erupted in cheers and alien sounds of approval. But, the Emperor continued, raising his hand for silence, there is still the matter of the traditional welcoming ceremony. Here it comes, Sarah thought. Normally, I would bestow honors upon new Federation members while maintaining my dignity and authority. However, the humans have shown us that sometimes dignity must be sacrificed for the greater good. He gestured to the court officials, who brought out a large box. The humans destroyed our ceremony through chaos and accident. They have reminded us that chaos is not always destructive. Sometimes it is necessary for growth. Therefore, I will demonstrate to the galaxy that even the Emperor can embrace the necessity of chaos. The officials opened the box and pulled out what looked like a bright orange cone with reflective stripes. Sarah's jaw dropped. It was exactly like a traffic cone from Earth. In human culture, the Emperor announced, this object is worn as a symbol of embarrassment and public shame. It is called a cone of shame. Today, I will wear it to acknowledge that our rigid perfection has made us inflexible and unable to solve our own problems. The Emperor took the traffic cone and placed it on his head, removing his galaxy crown. 50. Billion beings across the galaxy watched the most powerful ruler in known space wearing what looked exactly like a traffic cone. Let it be known throughout the galaxy, the Emperor declared, his voice somehow maintaining its dignity despite the ridiculous hat, that Emperor Vexthor the Magnificent welcomes the humans to the Galactic Federation and acknowledges that they have taught us valuable lessons about the necessity of embracing chaos and imperfection. The audience was completely silent for a moment, stunned by what they were seeing. Then one alien started clapping, then another, then the entire hall.